In our line of work, we are often helping people when they are at the worst part of their life or the most vulnerable. I'm Angie Miller with Ryan Miller in Coburn, and we specialize in helping our clients through difficult times. We help individuals who have been injured in car accidents, suffered from medical malpractice, or who are facing criminal charges. If you ever find yourself in one of these situations, please don't hesitate to reach out to our firm. We're available 24/7 and can be reached at 406-542-2233.
Ryan Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown, providing a little inspiration because he's showing you that, yes, you can have a full head of hair when you are 100 years old, and
That's right.
you could be married for nearly 20 years if you are him. Happy
Yeah,
anniversary.
that's right. My marriage can smoke and vote and do and gamble now. That's great. 18 years, baby.
Hey, that's great. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job by
Thank
you. Yeah, your wife's definitely the best part about your life. That's for sure.
No question.
No arguing that. All right. So I want to ask you something before we get into the Montana schools.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest disappointment in the Big Sky Conference this year, and why is it Idaho?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It
I mean,
might be
you
them.
can't lose homecoming at home to Northern Colorado. I mean, I know Northern Colorado's better, and I know that Idaho's quarterback Josh Wood was out. There's a lot of stuff going against them. You're a number 8 team in the country 2 weeks ago, and now you're going to be out of the polls. I think they actually somehow stayed in the poll this week, but 2-5 starts a tough road to sow if you're Idaho so far.
It's sort of the Penn State of the Big Sky, a little bit right there, where you weren't going to be in the top. You weren't, one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the conference, but people thought you were going to compete at a top 10 to 15 level nationally, and you're nowhere near that, and that is disappointing. And it's those things, it's interesting to see how a season evolves team by team, and teams that can get a big win and kind of come together and get a little momentum going and kind of figure it out, and other teams that have a tough loss, have another one, maybe all of a sudden look like they were overstated and overrated, and then it just starts to fall apart. But yeah, losing homecoming to Northern Colorado, doesn't matter who you are, ain't good. I would also submit for the review of the jury, Sacramento State, just because
Right.
of all of the hype. And I don't even know that it's a surprise, but it's still, somewhat disappointing what's happened there. So, those are all, it happens every year. Who's it going to be? You don't want it to be you. And as it turns out, it's the Vandals right now. And 406 kid myself, doesn't make me sad. I'm crying. 0 tears. On the Idaho Vandals falling apart.
Well, and Sac State's gotten so much bluster, or they've created so much bluster this last offseason, and they had great success with Troy Taylor, especially compared to their history, right? They had never won the Big Sky or been to the playoffs, and then Troy Taylor gets there and they share the league title 3 years in a row, and they go to the playoffs. But that said, it was elusive to them to have any success in the playoffs, right? Like Troy Taylor only won the 1 playoff game, I guess 2 playoff games. But Idaho actually had some playoff success too, though. Like Jason Eck won multiple playoff games.
Right.
So, I don't know. I know that Sac State had the league title thing, so they were above Idaho in sort of like the recent history. But Idaho, I thought, was actually at a higher standing just because of their long-standing tradition and the fact that they have, a real fan base and a real, and Sac State has some fans or whatever, but it's not like what Idaho has. So I don't know.
No, it's not.
It's just a fall. It's just a fall for notch down. And, maybe not totally unexpected when not only do you lose a transcendent coach like Jason Heck, but also he takes a lot of your best players with him on the way out the door.
No doubt. And, I think anytime you have a transition of a coach, it's going to be, we'll see what we got. And you want to have it be a transition where a coach did a really good job and moved, to another, maybe bigger opportunity, whatever the case might be. And good for Jason Eck to do that. But then who do you replace him with? And it's an uphill battle right now in Idaho.
Being in this industry since I was in college, one of the things I think we take the most pride in is Aspen Sound's been such a presence in Missoula for almost 40 years. The cool parts about our job is people always ask me, what do you do for a living?
one other piece of juice that's out there is Trent Bray got fired at Oregon State.
Right.
7.
Yep.
Yikes almighty what Oregon State has become when Jonathan Smith left. I mean, gosh, they were like pretty dang good a couple of years ago. 2022, when they played the Cats, that team like went 9-3 and like was in a right before New Year's Day bowl, which was pretty legit, or maybe they were 8-4, whatever. They were like a good team. They're a competitive team, and now they've fallen all the way down. But of course, anytime there's an opening in the Western United States, you're going to hear names from around the Big Sky Conference circle, and specifically Brent Vigen, since he was in the mix at Fresno State, New Mexico, and Washington State last year. I just wanted to get your thoughts on not necessarily the validity of those rumors, because I think they are at this point just rumors, but just the fact of the matter is that out west now, the jobs that are going to open, they're going to be sort of that FCS coaches are going to be in the scuttle for. I'm not all that sure that those jobs are better than what Montana State is right now. Like some of them, right? Like, don't you think Jeff Choate wishes he was at Montana State and not Nevada right now? Other than the salary, like, I mean, Nevada's like 1-5, and their only win is a field goal victory over Sac State earlier this year. They have 0 FBS wins.
Yeah, it's a really good question, man, and I think so. I think specifically Oregon State and Washington State are in a no man's land,
yes,
like nobody else. And Washington State actually, not Washington State dang near knocked off Ole Miss on Saturday, right? And I think I've never ever seen a situation like what those two schools are in right now. And how you navigate that as an athletics department, as a university, and especially as, the largest part of the athletics department being a football team, to try and how do you sell this place at this moment in time to recruits to get kids to come play for you? And I realize that now they're going to reboot the Pac-12 next season, but it's like everybody knows that it's the Mountain West.
And Washington State and Oregon State, right?
And you're not, and even like more to the point, none of the things that a power school or a power conference gets in terms of invites to the playoff and financial, cost sharing, media rights stuff, none of that is what is going to be what it was before. Right. So then the question is, well, what and who are you? And then the other thing, especially for Oregon State, and I feel terrible for them, but they made a huge, I think it was like a $600 million investment in facilities, new stadium, and everything like that, under the bill of goods they were sold about what the revenue sharing would be with the Pac-12 network.
Right. And you think you're getting $20 million a year from the Pac-12 network, and then that goes away, and you're like, well, how am I going to pay my bills?
And so that's my biggest question is like, if I was a coach, I'd be like, are you going to have a football team in 3 years from now? And they will. But I just like, how does this look? Like, how is this happening in Corvallis, Oregon?
Right. And this was the thing that went awry with Washington State when it was open last time, because that dude, Jake Dickert, who left, he was making like $2.2 million. And then it came out that Washington State's, whoever the new coach was going to be, which ended up becoming Jimmy Rogers, was going to make less than $1 million a year. And that's still a huge pay raise from South Dakota State. But you, as a professional, you're sitting there looking at it and you're like, well, man, if they're going to pay me less than half as much as the guy before me to do the same job, you're sitting there thinking, what is the stability of this place?
Sure, for sure. And what you are now is you are a Mountain West coach, and you're not a Pac-12 coach, and that's what it is. And and it's that's just the reality of it, man. Like, the Apple Cup was 3 weeks ago. Nobody even knew that it happened,
Right.
And
the
same thing with Oregon State. Like, that, those games were played. It was like,
so sad, man.
It is. It's such a bummer. And, it's just the reality of the deal. So to answer your question, it's not an answer, but it is completely opaque to me. What would be better? I think it comes down to the individual. You're gonna have a hard time, man, convincing me that Oregon State and Washington State are better situations than Montana and Montana State. And like, the salary's okay, but like, losing's hard. and to like
Right.
lose game in and game out and feel non-competitive and be 0-7 like the like the Beavers are, and you're playing in a half full stadium. It's like, I don't know, like it's draining. That hurt.
Sure.
Like that's hard to like keep your energy at the level that it needs to be and believe that, hey, it's going to come together and that. So you got to have the right person, man. You got to have the right person.
Well, and then there's this like looming doomsday scenario too, where like Paul Wolf gets it rolling at Eastern Washington, and they're going toe to toe with Montana and Montana State, and then he
Yeah.
goes to Washington State and he goes 9-37, and he didn't become a head coach again for 13 years. Like it took him forever to get back into the, right, because it just derails you. Like Travis DeCuire used to talk with us about this. He's like, boys, I got no interest in losing 20 games in a year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that no matter what the scenario is. Like there is no rebuild. Like Choate somehow has this weird fortitude where he's like, we go 2-9, but I know we're going to get, like you said last week, like lose big, lose small, win big, right? Like he can do that. But like some people, it's not wired like that. I don't know if Brett Beacon is, man. Like Brett Beacon, played at North Dakota State and coached at Wyoming. Like he's done nothing but win his whole career. I don't know if he'd be interested.
Well, and the other thing is when Jeff Choate goes to Bozeman, Montana, and sees what the resources are and the level of performance of the program relative to where it needs to be, he has a vision of how it can get there and what they need and what they have coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
When you go to Washington State,
I mean, Pullman is the hardest one, right?
How are you going to elevate this program in this situation? And they're not bad. They're not a bad football team at this moment. They're fine. But I just like, if you want to rebuild at Oregon State, which obviously there's no other option, it's just, where is that traction going to come from? How are you going to do it? And I think you got to, accept, you got to hope that they can find a way to finish the capital build that they were going to do.
Yep.
And then call yourself the gem of the Mountain West, even though it's rebuilt as the Pac-12, and say, hey, you were going to go play at UNLV, you were going to go play at Nevada, you were going to go play, hey, trust me, this is better than all that. Right. And try and work that out. But again, it's tough sledding.
Washington State and Oregon State have a few parallels, but I actually think that Oregon State stands alone. Because to me, there is a scenario in which in 10 years, Washington State and the Montana schools are not that dissimilar. That they're like in a similar place.
Yeah.
Oregon State has won national championships in baseball, and like they were in the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament like 3 years ago. Like they won the Rose Bowl.
We should call our old neighbor Coach Tinkle up and ask him. He's the one who needs to answer these questions.
Totally, right? Well, he actually is probably going to benefit from this new Pac-12 being the old Mountain West, because the Mountain West is like as good of a league in basketball as
for sure. I'm just saying to assess where the state of the university.
Right. No doubt. All right. Speaking of Paul Wolf, Cal Poly in Missoula on Saturday, a nothing burger first half for the Grizzlies, but then a pretty impressive performance in the second half. What did you think? I mean, I think a lot of people were a little thrown off by such an uneven performance, especially on homecoming, when you have all this juice coming out of a comeback win on the road the week before. But also, like when you put it all together, Montana had the ball for 40 minutes and they basically, pounded Cal Poly to death and really pulled away in the fourth quarter with 21 unanswered points. So what did you think of just the effort in total?
Well, I thought where there were question marks on the defense coming out of the Idaho State game, the defense flat out won the football game for the Grizzlies on Saturday. I mean, they held, Cal Poly to 9 points and then scored the first points of the game on the pick six, which was, I mean, the team, the stadium on a homecoming in your throwbacks, it couldn't be flatter, man. It was like an open 2 liter of Coca-Cola that's been out for 7 days, just sitting there. Just all the buzz is gone. And what's it going to take? Because the offense was just, I mean, it can't be worse. They did no points scored, like nothing. And even though when it was all said and done, Eli Gilman goes for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they finally did get it rolling. And I think, sometimes you just got to find, you kind of got to solve the riddle. And like you said, holding the ball for 40 minutes, you're going to lean on a defense, and at some point you're going to kind of break the dam, and they did. I mean, that once they started scoring, they just scored again and again and again. But to have the pick six on a great undercut of a throw, but also it's all about the pressure. I got to look up again 47 who went and had the pressure on the quarterback, but to force
he was a captain on Saturday as well, so kind of a cool moment for him, a guy that's been nothing but hurt basically his entire Griz career, but then he gets to be a captain. He gets to have a couple of key plays, I thought, at least in that game.
Well, to force a bad decision like that, and then and to have the undercut route and take it into the house and finally get the stadium up a little bit, break the scoring. I think you get stressed out as a football team. It's like you can't score. You feel like, well, we should, like, what's going on? We've been really good offensively, really through all of Big Sky Conference play, and now all of a sudden you can't find it. You know what I mean? And you don't expect that to be the case. And then you have a defensive score, and it turns the tides. Now, Cal Poly on the next possession defensively gets their huge turnover on a little trick kind of end around or reverse play. And the big guy, I mean, what's this, number 90 with the Viking hair running down the sideline? You go, oh my goodness, you got a big guy on the loose. But they end up with that penalty that takes them out of field goal range, and the defense just said, no, it's over. They had to punt after they had to recover the ball in like the 25-yard line. It ended up in a punting situation. And then the Griz offense finally got the thing rolling. And once they figured it out, they looked great. And it's really from the mid part of the third quarter on through the rest of the game.
I thought that Cal Poly was showing up campus some weird pre-snap stuff, and I think that you can't tell it was checking out of the wrong sort of stuff, and basically they just went to the ground game in the second half, and that really, I thought both Gilman and Stevie Rocker both looked good running the ball after halftime. And I don't know, I think that Saturday was just I think Saturday was another affirmation of the two or three definitive weaknesses that Montana has, as well as an affirmation of the definitive strength that they have, and that is that they play until the final whistle. And there's no question this team is a great fourth quarter team that is really good at finishing, because they've had all sorts of moments throughout the year where they haven't looked good. I mean, they haven't played well in the first half to basically the entire season besides Indiana State, but they played great in the fourth quarter basically every game this year. So I think that's an affirmation of what their probably their greatest strength is. And Bobby Houck said that in the postgame.
To be shut out for 2.5 quarters or more offensively, and to win the game going away, you don't hear that very often. But I mean, it did feel like, first of all, again, the Grizzly defense was on full lockdown mode. I mean, they're just giving up nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's like, as soon as Montana got a lead, it's like, well, game's over. The only question is, what's the final margin going to be? You know what I mean? And so it is, but there is a question, and it's always an interesting just perspective to have, where do you credit a team that is better and is superior and has more talent and all that kind of stuff for not playing their best, but figuring it out and ultimately pulling away and getting the job done? Or do you say, hey, why is this such a struggle? When's it gonna click where we're getting both sides of the ball, special teams, everybody involved to play a full game? And that is something I don't think we've seen out of Montana. And I think we have seen it from Montana State, at least with a little more consistency both directions. So I think the Grizzlies have work to do, because at their high water mark, the Grizzly offense, the Grizzly defense, and the special teams has played top nationally elite level football. But they haven't all done it together all at the same time for 60 minutes. That hasn't happened yet. And so this Saturday, it was the defense carrying the water for the team, and let the offense get there at some point, and then they did. And then, when you go, back to Idaho State, it was the offense that got the thing done, and the defense was just kind of trying to hold on for dear life. and they got that done on the road in a weird dome. And so there's all these different scenarios in which you can give credit on one hand and say, like, I mean, they're undefeated, man. You can't, like, at the end of the day, no one gives, like, you this week we'll talk about this for 20 minutes and we'll dial in. But like in a month from now, we'll look back and you know what it's going to say? 1-0 against Cal Poly.
Right. 3-score win. Right.
Full uniforms.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Like that's exactly 3-score win against Cal Poly. No one's going to come back. The only time this narrative comes full circle is if against the best teams that you play, obviously Montana State and then into the playoffs, if the question marks become the thing that you don't overcome when it matters. That's when it starts to get, well, why hasn't this been solved yet?
Right. No doubt.
Yo, Tara, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yo.
Nuanez now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. The Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to chasing more championships.
Big Sky Breakdown, SkylineSportsFT.com, probably presented in part by Jewelry Design Center. Jewelry Design Center can design and custom make any type of jewelry you can possibly imagine. Check out their beautiful showroom across from the Montana Club on Brooks in Missoula. Jewelry Design Center, your jeweler for life. So the other part is that I think that this is where sometimes Bobby Hauck is just so right, even when he is being defiant in the way he talks about things. Like at Big Sky kickoff, he sat there, he's like, these polls are meaningless. Because he's like, I don't even know anybody on my team. Like I got 60 new guys. Like, how are you guys going to vote on Idaho or whatever when, like, I don't even know, like, how my guys are going to be together, let alone those guys, let alone anybody.
So true.
I think there's a real thing, though, in the league because you kind of, like, want to check it off. And the Montana schools are in such this position of power because of their resources and their stability and their fan bases and their ability to get players and all these different things we always talk about. So we kind of knew, like, it was going to be a catastrophe if the Montana schools weren't good this year. But other than that, everything else is just sort of up in the air. Like, how's UC Davis when they don't have their 4-year starter at quarterback and their NFL running back anymore? The point is that Cal Poly's pretty good. Like, I thought Cal Poly was good on defense. The quarterback carousel thing that they're doing, I don't know about that. I do think they have some good offensive skill guys. They can't really run the ball. But I thought they were good on defense. I thought they were straight up had dudes on defense that were better than anybody I've seen from Idaho or Idaho State the previous weeks before that. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Mustangs have finally shorted up a little bit on that side of the ball. You'd have to think that they would with Paul Wolf, a guy that's, he's been Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year multiple times. He's got a good staff. They know what it takes. So maybe a little bit credit where credit's due, too, just them having a good plan and them sort of, punching with at least Montana in the first half.
Cal Poly historically, Colter, has had 2 or 3 guys that could play and start anywhere in the conference even at the next level and like borderline NFL dudes. And they they actually had NFL dudes. I mean, Nick DeZubnar played the NFL for like 10 years. Right. And so wherever those guys are, they just went to the well. I mean, I remember running backs getting 35 carries a game because it's their best player and but here's the thing. It was like their only truly good player.
Right. Right.
And the problem with football, man, is like it's great to have 2, 3, 4 guys that are like incredibly talented and just lean on those guys. But if the fall off is that drastic, kind of the rest of the team wide, you're just not going to do anything. This is why they always would run the triple option, right, and kind of do the gimmicky stuff because they had to try and find different ways to do it because they knew they didn't have the horses. They have the horses, man. Like it's a full football team at Cal Poly, and they might not have the best player in the conference or anything like that, but they can play. And I think that's worth noting. And to your point, we're sitting here shocked that Northern Colorado beat Idaho. And that is on paper and by name that we're surprised. But does anybody know who's playing football in Greeley? Hell no. Nobody because maybe they just had to get rid of McCaffrey, and now all of a sudden they can play a little bit.
And right, like, is it that surprising that Ed Lamb, a guy that won 3 Big Sky championships at Southern Utah, has got it going at Northern Colorado?
Right. Totally.
He said, "Hey, we're going to do this different than everybody else. I'm going to recruit nothing but high school guys. That's it. And we're going to play freshmen and sophomores, and we are going to lose. Like, we are going to lose."
Yeah.
But like, he actually probably knew more about his team than anybody else in the conference coming into this year, because they returned like 80 guys from last year because they were just so young. How about on the Montana State side of things? Obviously, the inevitable letdown for Idaho State after losing at home in a game that had a bunch of buildup for Montana, but also a completely different matchup. And I thought the Cats said, basically, welcome to the big house, right? Like, they were up 20-7, and then Jordan Cook threw that long touchdown to cut it to 20-14. And thinking, oh, okay, Idaho State's spunky in this one too. And then squished him like a bug, rushed for about 400 yards in the second half. And I thought that was a dominant performance after Idaho State sort of made it close early on.
Completely. Well, and the other thing is even when it was 20-14, that was 3 touchdowns on 3 possessions for the Cats at that moment.
Right.
Like, so there was never a whiff of hope, quite honestly, for Idaho State.
The best stat of the game is not the 384 yards rushing. It's not the fact that Justin Lamson also threw 4 touchdowns in the game. It's not even the fact that the Cats averaged almost 9 yards a carry. They had 36 first downs. Like, you will never beat a team if they got more than 25, let alone 36. It's like pretty hard to even get 36 first downs.
It's insane. I was just happy to see my boy Nunley make one big play in the game, and he is the real deal, dude. I mean,
both those receivers are sweet, man.
They are. They're great.
14, the high jumper, is so sweet.
But give the Cats defense credit, because they had, I mean, that touchdown was like an 80-yard touchdown, but really was like a 17-yard slant across the middle, and it was a loss of leverage and a missed tackle, and then it's just to the house. And so they gave up one big play defensively. The other touchdown was the result of a very good, methodical Idaho State drive. And they went down the field. I think it was their second possession of the game, and they scored a touchdown. And you're like, okay, there's that Idaho State offense that we've kind of heard about. Then the next possession, they had a big play, and then it was curtains for the entire rest of the game. 17-21 for Lamson with 4 touchdowns passing, and he's just ripping the ball. And again, those are great quarterback stats. In this football game, those are offensive line stats, buddy. He sat back there hanging out, had a little teppanyaki lunch where they cooked and made the onion volcano. He kind of looked around, let guys roll out. Do I want to go to 1? He's open, but he's not open enough. I'm going to work my way back to 2. Yeah, 2 looks pretty good. I'll throw it there for a touchdown now. I mean, it was so dominant. And you don't get 17 for 21 without having just the cleanest pocket of all time. You know what I mean? Like, you can give Lamson deserves a ton of credit for that, but it's just because he could do whatever he wanted. And there's a lot of quarterbacks, quite honestly, who could be that efficient with that level of pass blocking up front. So I give the credit there to the big guys. I will say this is the thing that stood out the most to me for the Cats offense in this game from what I've seen before, and that was Lamson running.
Yeah.
They had multiple design runs for him. He had a couple of scramble runs, but yes, he's not Tommy Mellott. Who is? Tommy Mellott's the fastest dude ever. But you know what he is? He's not serviceable. He's a legitimate threat running the football. Legitimate.
Well, you remember at Sac State when Troy Taylor did the 2 quarterback thing that just made Bobby Hauck's head explode?
Yeah.
It drove Bobby so crazy that he decided he was going to try the 2 quarterback thing to no avail, obviously. But and they tried to do it with Clifton McDowell and Sam Bidlack, and then, of course, last year with Logan Fife and Kaylee Ayat. But when Sac had it, when they had Jake Dunaway and Asher O'Hara, and they basically ran 2 offenses. They had the Dunaway offense, which was like the spread. And they had the O'Hara offense where he was running like all this gun run. It was very similar to what Montana State did with Sean Chambers.
Yeah.
Lamson was the O'Hara of the Stanford offense. Troy Taylor was that same thing at Stanford, and that was Lamson. So he was in the gun run quarterback position at an ACC school.
And
so he definitely can run. He's definitely a good athlete.
He's a really good athlete, and I think that putting that on tape against Idaho State is such a big feature now for the Cats going forward, where they just rushed for 413 yards. They had 600 yards of offense, and 80, 90 of those yards are Lamson on design runs where he's just carrying the ball and making dudes miss, scoring touchdowns. And you go, oh my God. So, okay, we got Adam Jones. We got a bevy of pass catchers. We got a great offensive line. And now we got to deal with the +1 run game too. And I think that is, that's going to be a hard scheme to try and sort out for any defense, coming down the pike. So obviously a great day for Montana State. Now, Idaho State, let's be clear, they are not a top defense in the Big Sky Conference. Okay. No. They do not have it. And so remember who you're playing against, right? I thought the defensive performance was far more notable for the Cats even in the offensive performance, because I think the Idaho State offense is really good. They got some players, and Montana State, basically gave up one drive and one big play, and then was like, no, we're done with that. And they, bottle them up and 48-14, whatever, 48-13 ball game. And it's just going away again in Bozeman.
What do you make of this? The fact that Eli Gilman had 15 yards on 16 carries. He had one 33-yard run to get him up to 48 yards against Idaho State.
Yeah.
But other than that, basically 1 yard a carry. And Adam Jones goes for 173 and the Cats rush for over 400.
Yeah. I thought about this. I'm not going to make too much of it. I think that Montana State's still the best rushing team in the Big Sky. And they pretty much do what they want. I also think that Montana, they had the Idaho State defense completely locked into Eli Gilman. They said, we are stopping 10. That's it.
Right.
And they shredded the Idaho State defense because they're like, oh, you want to load the box? You want to give up one-on-one on the outside? Right. Oh, here's this guy, Michael. He's pretty good. We're going to give him the ball wherever we want. We're just going to score at will. So you do that, and it's like, it's okay. So, and I don't think
they put like 9 in the box and said beat us throwing, and the Griz threw for 400 yards. So that's right. Kind of how it goes.
So I'm not. I think even though it's the same team, I think it's more of an apples to oranges comparison, run game versus run game there.
Is it will you marry me in your future, or maybe you do it all over again? Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
Well, you want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Well, I also think that there's just matchups, right? Like, two things can be true at once. Montana State is better than Montana on defense right now. That's not fully defined by the fact that the Cats gave up 14 and the Griz gave up 38.
Right.
Not that much.
That's not. Yes.
Again, the Cats are better on defense than the Griz are right now. I think they're more complete. I think they're deeper. I think they have they have less weaknesses, because I think that the Cats are solid in the secondary, good at linebacker, and the best D-line in the conference, maybe in the country. But I also think that the Griz play this scheme that's a terrible matchup against what Idaho State does, whereas the Cats play a scheme that's a lot. They could confuse Jordan Cook a lot more, and so Again, two things to be true at once. Cats are better on defense, but they're not 24 points better than the Griz are on defense.
Well, and again, how many times have we seen this? Let's introduce a third team and just say, Team 1 plays Team 2 and loses. They play Team 3 and win. Team 2 plays Team 3 and loses, but they beat Team 1.
Right.
And it's like, well, there's nothing to, it's matchup based, man. And it's scheme. And it's how do you play on that day? Like, everybody knows this, right? But we're in the middle of the season. We are in the sort of dog days of football where, oh, it's another session in the gym. Oh, it's another new, playbook to learn for this week. It's another new install. It's another get up at 6 a.m. and go, do conditioning or whatever. And it's hard. And to get to a point where you are at your best physically, mentally, emotionally on Saturday, every single time, like that's where the best are separated out, right? And that might be one area where I might say, hey, Montana, even that, just because it's homecoming, just because you get throwbacks doesn't mean like you still got to go out and be that team. And I don't know that they were in the first half. They were defensively, but there was just a lack of energy just all the way around for what you would expect in that sort of environment.
It was a lack of energy in the stadium too.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
It was weird. It was like so weird. The crowd was so weird. You thought they would be like completely on tilt, but it's almost like everybody had an empty tank of gas after 4 home games in a row. And then they actually got to watch the game on the couch on Saturday. Before, and then they came, I don't know. It was very, very interesting.
I think that we are, this is true of live music, which you and I love, right? Going to concerts and stuff like that. And it's a little bit, there are scenarios in which who you're watching, whether it's a team playing sports, a band on stage, whatever, they have to convince you that they're worth your time, and if they can bring the energy that's needed to bring you into the moment, then it becomes a beautiful thing. There's also times though where like the audience has to be ready to play ball too. Like you got to be there as a group and bring your own energy and like involve yourself in the thing. And I felt like on Saturday, and I think this has been more true recent years at Washington Grizzly than it was, 10, 15 years ago, where the crowd was going to be lit every game in and game out, no question, all the time. And right now, I think the crowd is waiting for the team to do something to bring them in. And if they don't, they're like, because it's an event, but it doesn't have some of the rabid mentality that it once did. And I mean, who knows what that is? I mean, there's a lot of population turnover. There's a lot of people going to Griz games that aren't lifelong Griz fans, that didn't, that aren't dyed in the wool that way and stuff like that. And, eventually, midway through the third quarter, that stadium got rolling.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's like starting a diesel in the middle of winter, man. You gotta light that fire. You gotta let that thing cough a little bit, and then it finally rumbles to life.
This is where Bobby Hauck's job is so challenging, because he has to deal with this rabid but yet also like completely irrational fan base that counts the wins before they hatch, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Cal Poly. The Griz are going to kill Cal Poly. The Griz are 21-point favorites against Cal Poly. Like, whatever. It's so funny because Idaho was the number 8 team in the country, and it was a national TV game. So the whole thing was just tilted the entire time. It's at night. Everybody's been partying all day. Everybody was ready to roll. And then human nature, you just think, oh, this is one of the biggest games of the year. This is probably the best team that's coming to Missoula besides Montana State. Guess what? Cal Poly's better than Idaho. And people just didn't know that or understand that, and then they're like, "Oh, well, they're beating the Griz."
You're 1,000% right. 1,000% right. Like nobody thinks that Cal Poly in homecoming is like a better test than Idaho under the lights playing for the Little Brown Sign on ESPN2. But 100% they are.
Yep. Okay, so 2 things for you. 2 more things. Tuesdays with Tootell, probably presented by Cash One Pond. Cash One Pond, the premier pawn shop in Western Montana. It is hunting season, so if you need any rifles, shotguns, archery, they got it all out there. You can also shop online, Cash One Pond. That's cash1pond.com. All right. The Griz play how do you say, what should be an overmatched opponent on Saturday instead of having a bye. The Cats have a bye with a lot of momentum going into their bye, and then they get to go on the plane to San Luis Obispo, take on Cal Poly, which I think could actually be a little bit of a test for Montana State, given what we saw on Saturday. Where are we at with these two teams as we're sort of in the midpoint? Because this is basically supposed to be Montana's bye week as well.
Yeah, well, I think the bye comes at a fine time for the Cats, and you can kind of like, they got to this point, they've attained a certain level of dominance that I think they should be happy with. And now you have an opportunity to do all the self-scout stuff, really look at the other teams that you can now gather real information on, since we're half the season in, and, you know, presumably just keep the thing rolling and figure out how you're going to set your sights on the ultimate destination. For the Grizzlies, this is effectively the bye week. And I think it's an opportunity to get some guys involved and maybe show some things on film that you haven't shown yet that you can force other opponents to have to think about now. Maybe they go the other way and just play it just straight up, showing nothing whatsoever, and just go out and play ball. And maybe it's a, you know, whether it's a glorified practice or whatever. The underestimating an opponent is obviously never a good idea. Yet you also understand, like, this is just like the better football team by a landslide. And so what you're doing this week is, yeah, you're preparing for this game, but I think that you're preparing for this game with future games in mind, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And what that's going to look like, I don't know. Would it be great to, like, you know, be up 4 or 5 touchdowns at halftime and roll out a bunch of, you know, freshmen who aren't going to burn red shirts to get them some action, or to work some guys in and have them work on some things where they need areas of improvement, and you know that, you know, it's well in hand. Maybe that's the way you go, and part of it depends on how the game sets up. But you know, it's an off week in the state of Montana in a lot of ways. I think it's a good opportunity for the football team to get better through playing a live game and a real opponent, while also being able to maybe work on some things beyond just finding a way to win, if that makes sense.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Well, then that's like the last point I wanted to leave you with, is that there is sort of this formula that Bobby Houck has used for years and years, and that is play as many guys as you can in September, fine tune it, but never satisfied. You know, we're going to be as hard as ever. Like, we're never celebrating a single thing because we're not even close to where we need to be, grinding through October.
Yeah.
And this is obviously oftentimes when they drop a game, and then you crank it and you get the guys you need and you get the guys you want and you hope to be healthy, and boom, you just slam the pedal down in November. So often, though, they'll have the games where they don't play well and then they just lose, but they haven't lost yet. So is that a turning point for them as a football team, football program?
I think
good enough
turning point, I don't know, but I think it's absolutely worth noting. And I'll go back to what you said earlier about Coach Houck in the offseason. He's like, I don't even know who's on my team. I don't know who these guys are yet, you know? And 28 transfers, a whole new defense. The whole defense is new. Yeah. These dudes have played 7 games together, 6-7 games, right? Like, so the fact that they struggled at Idaho State, nobody should be writing any definitive tomes about how good or not good Montana is. were how good or not good their defense is. And they came out and they were lights out and they won the game on Saturday in the homecoming. And that is, and to your point, they do it, they don't play their best, and they're still winning.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to take the optimistic track, which I am with this Grizzly team at this moment, because I've seen the talent, like I've seen them again.
Yeah.
Each facet player is playing at their best. If and when that can really coalesce and come together, you're talking about a potential juggernaut. And it's not
their best player has been out too. I mean, Loud's been out for the last couple of weeks. I should say they're definitively the best player, but he's their most important player on defense because he's their best man-to-man guy.
But also, it shouldn't be surprising that it's taking time for it to all come together at once. Like, it shouldn't be surprising that Montana State, with 4 transfers and basically just everybody like back in the mix, even with a new quarterback, but a really good player, is sort of just rolling the way that they roll. And it shouldn't be surprising that Montana has some super high moments of like, oh my God, look at how good this team is. And then some moments of like, hey, what's going on? You going to figure it out or not? That is growth. That's what it takes as a team. And some of that is induced by coaching in terms of, like you said, wanting to play different guys. And you don't, quote unquote, want to play your absolute best game the 3rd week of the season. You want to get the guys out there so that they can learn together. And it might not look great, but you get there and you get the win. And to your point, when Halloween rolls around, that's when you need to be who you are. And I think Montana is trending in the right direction to that, in my opinion. And I think this week will be another really big opportunity to use that to sort of bring it all together in a game.
All right, Tootell here on the Big Sam Breakdown, probably presented by Ryan Miller and Coburn. Ryan Miller and Coburn, experts when it comes to criminal defense. They can help you out if you have any sort of legal needs when it comes to personal injury, medical malpractice, DUIs, wrongful death. Call them anytime, 406-542-2233, or visit online, rmcattorneys.com. Ryan Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. All right, Gus, thanks for being here, man. Anything else before we get you out of here? You got to go back to your anniversary.
I do. I'm having my anniversary. I just paid for the lunch on this call right here, so thank you very much.
You did. Yes, you did.
Grab bag at Taco Bell. We're at that point in the relationship. I just got to say, I am just riding a wave of Seattle Mariner baseball right now, dude. I mean, my God. So it's just so fun.
They told me I couldn't. Blake and Pete both told me I can't ditch the Guardians and become Mariner again. And I said, I'm doing it. I don't care, dude.
No. This time of year, there's 4 teams left. The chances that your team ain't one of them's real high. You might as well find somebody and get involved. And they go to the best team in baseball, or best team in the AL at least, on half rest with Bryce Miller. And they shut down a team that scored 9 runs a game against the Yankees. They hit a home run on the first pitch and never score again. Looked like the Grizzlies defense out there. I mean, my God, it was awesome. So I'm fired up about it. I don't know. Baseball just hates success because they're putting the best product they have on it the middle of the afternoon, 1 in the afternoon on a weekday in the home city of the team that, like, you want nothing to do with just having a window where everybody's going to watch you, huh? Nothing. So
it's so stupid.
It's
Why
crazy.
do they do that?
Dude, I don't know. I don't
play
know.
the game at 7:00 so that everybody would watch. 100 times more people are going to watch.
Just play it at 7:00. It's just not. I mean, I know it's Monday Night Football, and I know, but
they almost screwed it up on Friday too. That game 5 that was epic. That was scheduled for 2:30 in the afternoon, and then they figured it out and flexed it at least till 6. But man, like what a shame that would have been if people are like getting off work and it's the 14th inning and you missed that whole just instant classic game.
And I talked to a lot of people. They're like, "Did you stay up for the whole thing?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Of course I did." And it's like this is like a badge of honor that it was 12:40 in the morning and I'm screaming at my television. They're like, "You're gonna wake the baby up," and I did. And I don't care. This is what we're here for.
It's awesome. Well, go M's. Let's see if we can get the Pacific Northwest a little championship action. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yes, absolutely.
Best of luck with your week. Tell Tina happy anniversary, and thanks for being here, buddy.
Thanks, man.